we kind of grabbed Matt and said, oh my goodness, you must record this. Because when International Space University was founded by Peter, and we're all graduates of that program, there was no cameras. There were no video cameras back in the mid-80s that could do that. And so we thought, wow, we have the ability to capture this moment of the creation of a university. And that was the original part. We were just going to look at the university, and then we started looking at the students. And then the people coming to teach. And all the people you saw interviewed there have all taught at the university. I mean, imagine that as your faculty. And so young Matthew was a great kid, great young man, sorry. And he kept on wanting to do one more interview. And then we kept it going, and then all of a sudden we realized we've been so many years in that we might as well just wait a couple more years to see how everything turned out. And that's what we try to do, try to capture that moment in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And in 2 years, you're going to have your 10-year anniversary. Can you talk a little bit about the proudest moment and also the most difficult moment throughout the soon-to-be 10 years for now?
Absolutely. No, thank you. I mean, I think every time we meet one of the students, it's amazing what they're doing. And there are so many more who we couldn't fit into the film. There's so much B-roll footage, it's incredible. And it's that moment where you see them changing the world, where you see them being so brave, grasping those risks, and you bump into them somewhere, and you have a casual chat. How are you doing? Well, we just hired this many people, we just solved that problem. You know, problems that have never been solved before, like the BioMind team. Or Get Around, if you've ever used that, it's fantastic. They just did a $200 million deal with Toyota. Same thing, if you buy a Toyota and you choose to go through Get Around, Toyota will give you a better price. Just like Uber, it's incredible. So it gives me such faith that there's people out there changing the world for the positive. And the scariest moment is probably we were wondering if we were ever going to finish the film.
I want to open it up to the audience as well, so just prepare your questions and put your hands up. Yes?
I didn't know about the university, its existence even. Does it meet for 10 weeks, and then what happens to the facility for the rest of the year, or is it a 10-week continuous process of 10 weeks?
Great question, thank you. Actually, and so what we're doing at the moment is what the university is now doing, because once we were filming, and being a professor of ethics, Michael and I stood back from the university, and we've just been sort of eyes in, watching them and helping them that way. So they have the 10-week program every now in the summer. That's now fully funded by Google, which is amazing. Google actually competed to fund that program. It's superb. And then they have executive courses where you can go for a week and sort of have a deep delve into all these different topics. And they just founded an incubator. So now as you're a student, you can come in at different parts of the year and actually attend class, go through the same kinds of programs, but at the same time have access to venture capital and tools and equipment to go off and actually take your ideas to the next level. And it is astounding. We were there a couple of weeks ago, and the lab is like something out of science fiction, because you have all these incredible companies in Silicon Valley and from around the world who are sending their very latest, greatest prototypes of everything they have to these students, these young men and women, to say, go use it, break it, do things that's never been done with this technology, change the world. And it's astounding what is coming out. When I'm this should almost be a daily television show.
Absolutely. Yes, go ahead. Just hold on to it.
Oh,
How do you pick your students?
in the first couple of years, it was really hard because you had to go find them. And now they have a great selection criteria, I think, but the most thing they look for is that spark of passion and inspiration. And the same with International Space University and Singularity. They don't care whether you're an engineer, a scientist, a businesswoman, journalism, poet, sculpture, they don't care. They just want you to have a background and come and share that within a team and learn and apply the economics of abundance is what we're calling it. Peter Diamandis has written a great book on this, 2 books, one called Abundance, one called Bold. And it's about how the economy is actually changing. This exponential change is actually in effect as we see it today. When's the last time anyone used a travel agent? It's one of the great ways of thinking about this, right? I mean, I fortunate, and that's why I love Sarasota. Thank you for having us at the film festival. My family's been coming here since 1976, and I love it here. I mean, it's one of my favorite places, and I've kind of grown up and seen Sarasota change and grow, and I kind of know it, but I still use my iPhone to get myself around, right? I mean, we've come to rely on technology, and everything is changing. We're living in this new digital renaissance. It's the second human renaissance. Everything is changing so much, so fast. And that's what we've tried to capture with this documentary, but also the university. I mean, how many of us here were born, my son's here, but how many of us here were born before microchips? Right? Can you imagine this? And to go forward, the people were going to look back at us in 10 or even 15 years' time and say, oh my gosh, how did you live in those days? It was the dark ages. Wow, you know. How did you drive? You drove yourself to work? and I'm thinking, I mean, two great examples that we discussed a little bit and touched on this is that the smartphones that you have, your Android phone, your iPhone, in the palm of your hand is every single fact of human knowledge, every single painting, every single piece of music, every single artwork. Everything ever written in any language ever, and it's one finger touch away. We've got about 3.5 billion people connected online. We're trying to get the other 4.5 brought online. Imagine that when they're all connected. 2014 was the year that connected devices, machines online, surpassed the number of human beings on the planet. So right now, there's 7.5 billion of us, roughly, give or take. There's about 12 billion connected machines, maybe. 2020, which don't forget is only 2.5 years away. Just Google, are estimating 50 billion connected devices. Remember at the beginning we talked about how the internet was the size of a golf ball, it's going to be the size of a sun. And all that changes, it was wonderful. And one quick last example, I love this stuff, you can tell we're very passionate about this, is my favorite one is music. How many of you have listened to music today, right? Well, yeah, of course we do, I mean it's amazing. So 100 years ago, to listen to music, you had to be incredibly wealthy and maybe go to a concert hall. Maybe if you were super rich, if you're a Carnegie, you could have a phonograph that would actually play wax discs to you. And then in the sort of, after the First World War, but plastics and vinyl, people sort of had records. Wow. I mean, imagine, not being weird, but imagine Queen Victoria. She couldn't listen to music whenever she wanted to. The great empress of the world, she did not have what every child has today. And that is the ability to have your own personal soundtrack throughout your entire life. You want to listen to Mozart? Hit a button. You want to listen to, Wang Chung? Hit a button. It's incredible. Our generation is a pivot point for the whole of human evolution. And the living standards are rising. Poverty globally is falling because of the application of technology.
Can you talk a little bit about the application of technology in medicine? Because that's very, very interesting.
No, thank you, Lucy. Absolutely, and I think I'm personally hoping for a lot of this to work in the future. So you saw Dr. Daniel Kraft, who runs TED, Technology Entertainment Design, TED Med, Future Med, and Daniel was talking, and don't forget, we filmed this a couple of years ago. He was talking about synthetic organs, synthetic biology, printed organs. It's happening. It's already started to happen. NASA has already had a piece of heart tissue, 2 inches by 2 inches square, growing even larger than that now, beating on its own. You can actually start to print kidneys now, livers, bones, marrow, skin. We now have synthetic skin, which you just spray on burn victims. It's astounding. It's happening. Now, what does that mean for us? I mean, so there's an organ trade at the moment. Not a nice thing to talk about. There's all sorts of issues with that. And transplants and waiting lists. It's barbaric. In the future, the very, very near future, and I mean less than 5 years, if not sooner, you're going to have the ability to have an organ printed for you, your DNA. So imagine, heaven forbid, you're out there and you've had a heart attack, you're lying on the ground, the drone comes in, it does a quick scan, it knows who you are, the ambulance flies in, and we showed Abu Dhabi, Dubai, this last month, March, they trialed the first ever drone taxis, whereby a drone lands, picks you up, takes you, flies over the traffic and drops you at your skyscraper. Okay? That's happening right now. Think about Longboat Key. How nice that would be, right? So imagine, so you're there, and as you go, as the ambulance is flying you into the surgery, replacement heart, kidney, blood, everything you need is printed as you're flying in. It's waiting, ready for you. Instant transplants, 0 rejections. Bang goes waiting list, bang goes organ trade. Life extension for almost every single human being on the planet. It's huge. Now, all of you have, I hope, have a smartphone. And if you do, Android or Apple, hit that little emergency button. Try and do the unlock button. When it doesn't, then it says emergency call. hit the, not the emergency call, don't call 911, but hit the emergency button. And I have an Apple phone, and it's just one of those things. You have a little, there's an app, a little heart shape called Apple Health. And you think, oh, what's that? It actually helps you live your life way more healthy. You should be able to put all of your emergency contacts. So paramedics these days are trained. If they find you and your phone and you can't talk, they pick up your phone, they hit that button, and automatically they know everything that you've put in, your blood type, your allergies, who to contact in an emergency, who to reach you, how to reach you. It's amazing, okay? More than that, if you have an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or any of those devices, they are constantly monitoring your health. Same thing, the doctor then looks at your phone or your watch, and it'll tell exactly when you had that aneurysm, when you had that heart attack, when your blood sugar dropped, when your blood pressure spiked. It's amazing. The other one I'm talking about is, you had an occasional mention to Roddenberry and Heinlein. Do you remember, Star Trek? Of course, right? There was a great study back in the 80s, why did doctors, become doctors? And the number 3 choice from the AMA was they saw McCoy doing these wonderful things. And how does life imitate art, art imitate life? And so about a month ago, at the University of California, San Diego, the X Prize, founded by Peter Diamandis, they awarded the Tricorder Prize. Don't forget, these phones, these smartphones, are like little miniature supercomputers. They're incredible things, do many different things. They've awarded the prize, and it basically turns a smartphone, with a couple of attachments and other things, lots of teams are competing for it, into a medical tricorder. So when you go see the doctor, wow, the doctor knows more about you as you step in that room, or the artificial intelligence does before you step in that room. They can scan you down to the cellular level. It's the most amazing thing. Life-changing for all of us. Think about the future. Take that to the next level. If you're in the medical field, imagine not just the printed organs and the incredible biosynthetic drugs that will match just your DNA. Imagine as they replace things, they fix your DNA. They take the heart disease out. They take the glaucoma out, right? They take the diabetes out. More than that, that smartphone, every 2 years, Moore's Law, gets twice as good, half as cheap. You're going to have your own personal doctor. Actually, a sign of poverty in the future is that you have to go see a human doctor. Because you're going to have artificial intelligence that knows your DNA, knows your habits, does incredible things with you, and it is going to have the most up-to-date knowledge. It's like having someone from Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Trinity, St. Thomas's in London, guys, the very best doctors in the world, 24 hours a day, looking after you, right? Updated with the latest medical technology. Every single case, there's been an outbreak of flu in San Diego, boom, they knows about it here right now, boom. It never gets tired, it never has a cross moment, it's always patient, and it looks after you. Imagine the future that your children and grandchildren are going to grow into. It is a wondrous future. It's incredible.
Go ahead.
Well, we thought the film was fabulous, and we were very anxious for our adult children to see it. Is it available on DVD, or is it available anywhere other than here?
We actually decided a fair screening of your film.
Thank you. Yes, actually, what we're going to do too, there's going to be a third screening on Sunday here at the film festival, which thank you very much to the Sarasota Film Festival for that. It's very kind, honoured, stunned. But we're looking for help with distribution, always. And our goal is to try and get this to as many people as humanly possible. And so we'd love to get it up on Amazon, Netflix, Vimeo. Actually, we'd love to give it away for free, if possible too. We've been approached by a couple of different countries. They want all of the high school children in those countries to see the film. Right, so we're trying to trim it down to a high school level so they can be shown in classes. And yeah, we want to try and get this message out to as many people as possible. And one of the people we want to get it to is legislatures. Because what's happening is, one of the big things with this is markets changing exponentially, technology is changing exponentially, but politics is linear. And the regulators are wonderful people, but they're just not able to keep up. And so with autonomous cars, I mean, imagine 1 million less deaths a year. Imagine the effect on the local economy here in Sarasota. If you don't like driving after dark, if you want to have a couple of drinks. Imagine the effect on the restaurants, on the hotels, on the lifestyle. Imagine if you're housebound and the car comes and picks you up and takes you there. Imagine if the drone delivers your medicine to you. Just the life-changing things that you couldn't do, you now can. But it can only happen if the politicians get their act together and pass a law that allows it to happen. And I think that's part of the choke points that we have to try and figure out. Like the guys at Get Around did, they got it passed in California, Oregon, Washington, and now Washington, D.C. D.C. is a target city to try and hit all of the congressmen, all of the senators, etc.
about the legal system and if there's like two attorneys that factor into this as far as, well, the ethics and law, which also goes into politics?
Actually, yes, at Singularity, we have the legal and ethics track. And what's been happening is the most wondrous thing, is that wherever there's money, there's law. And as our students are moving forward and they're raising the money, they're changing things, what we've been able to do is, and we've made it open to anyone. Anyone can come in, any law firm, please, always. But the idea, we've had some of the world's larger law firms step up and say, look, we really like this, we'd like to help you. Because, you know, we have great IP support, we have great experience in China, or we have fantastic litigation support over here if it's going to be accidents and cars and insurance. Let us help you figure this out. And so there we're drawing on a lot of that deep well in Silicon Valley too. No, but more is always needed, because law is always local. Absolutely.
Yes, go ahead.
Is Singularity University for-profit or is it non-for-profit?
It flipped. This is it. It started as a not-for-profit and was doing so well, it actually flipped into a benefit corp as well. And that allowed them to do the incubator. So they can actually raise money for the students to go off and raise their companies, and the students can put things back in. It's fascinating. That was like one of those key moments when we knew that something was working really, really well. And we are all, hands on hearts, we're all anarcho-libertarian capitalists, just to let you know too. We believe in fundamentally changing the world through capitalism as opposed to aid. It's a very different approach. We'd rather give people jobs. Thank you.
Yes.
One quick question. You said you taught ethics.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are the ethical things or issues or things that bubble up either inevitably or surprisingly from your experience?
Gosh, yeah, and thank you. And the one thing I'll give you one of the key examples that I would teach to is Wernher von Braun. Dr. Wernher von Braun, who obviously, we see the pictures of him in Kennedy and the Saturn V rockets and the great things that he did. And you can tell from my accent, I'm from the UK, British Isles, the Isle of Man. Now, growing up, Wernher von Braun for me was what we call the 20 minutes. There was 20 minutes of Peenemünde at the end of World War II, when the RAF military police were 20 minutes behind the US forces. If we'd have not taken a left turn instead of a right turn, and we'd have gotten there first, he would have been at Nuremberg as a war criminal. Because he was a major in the Waffen-SS. And his life story was called Aim for the Stars, and we used to joke, aim for the stars, and occasionally hit London. You know, he invented the vengeance weapons, the terror weapons. You know, he was a terrorist. And yet, look what he did. And you look at his life, and he was always passionate about science and rocketry. And he took a choice in life to do anything he possibly could to achieve that. And we would always say, well, hang on a minute. You know, you're going to be handling technologies, you're going to be handling all sorts of different elements here. You really want to be very careful and don't be von Braun. Don't let others use you. Always make an ethical choice, always take a step back and look at the ethics, look at the laws, look at the rules and regulations. We do say if we're trying to teach you ethics, and you're in your mid-20s, early 30s, it's already too late. But what we can teach you to do is learn from the mistakes of others and at least be cognizant of what you're trying to do. And you saw the gentleman that took over from me, he's fantastic. And he's taken that to whole different levels, into a whole different arena, from arms to biotech, nanotech, and everything else. It's fascinating. But you must have that cognizance of what you're doing.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so we're going to have to wrap it up. I have one last question before we go, and then I'm sure Chris is available for questions outside the theater. We just have to load the next film. Is there a way for people to actually keep track of the projects that are going through university, through the Singularity University?
Absolutely, yes. If you just Google Singularity University, it'll take you straight to the site. You can sign up for newsletters. Same for the documentary. If you Google the university documentary about Singularity, we pop up with our website, which I'm having a senior moment and I can't remember, but we are on Facebook too. Our Facebook site is much easier to find. It's very nice of Mr. Zuckerberg to keep that updated for us. It's fantastic. Yeah, so there's ways to sign up, there's ways to keep track, and Singularity is growing too. They're having different landing pads in different countries. They're expanding across the states, and it is really quite a program.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.